What is going on YouTube? Welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we'll be going over a very controversial subject between the Sekiro community, and that is the top 3 most difficult bosses to beat in the game. Now this could go many different ways, right? It depends on what your experience with the game is and what kind of player you are. Your top 3 most difficult bosses could be way different than what you'll hear in this video. With that being said though, without wasting too much of your time, let's see what the top 3 most difficult bosses in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice are, according to my experience with the game and according to some of the research I did and what people have been telling me as well. So a quick word before we get to it. We're going to go from easy to hard. So number 3 would be the easiest out of the top 3 we have, and then the second one and then the first one is the boss that I personally had the most trouble with and I think is the most difficult boss in Sekiro by far. And to kick it off with our list here, the third most difficult boss in Sekiro for me has got to be the Guardian Ape. Now hear me out. I know there's many of you out there right now who are like, what is this man on? Guardian Ape isn't even in my top 5 hardest bosses in Sekiro. And that is true. As I said, and you'll hear me say this a lot of times during today's video, this video is purely dependent on my experience with the game. And in my first Sekiro playthrough, my first and only Sekiro playthrough, when I got to the Guardian Ape, man oh man was it a challenge. It took me a good few days to beat this boss, and I'm not even joking. I've seen people beat the Guardian Ape in their first playthrough in like 3 tries. I've seen people beat it first try, and I was like, how? If you've played Sekiro before, or if you at least got past this boss, you'll know exactly what I'm about to refer to. The Guardian Ape is a very intimidating boss during your first playthrough when you first encounter it. First of all, it's massive compared to you, right? It has a big amount of posture damage, and you can't Mikiri counter anything. And I'd say I died a lot because of that grab the boss does that absolutely obliterates your health. And just to put the cherry on top, when you actually see the boss for the first time, you're like, oh my god, it's got one phase, I got this, this is about to be so easy. You slice the Guardian Ape's head off, right? You're happy you did it in like what, 5, 6 tries, maybe 10 max, right? And you're like, job done here. Nope. You wait for like 5 seconds, the Guardian Ape picks his head up, his or hers, I have no idea, picks the katana up, and it's time for round 2. And I'm going to be fully honest with you guys, round 2 is where I really stayed at, where I died and I kept dying, because it was so difficult. The thing that got me the most in the second phase is the terror scream. That's where I kept dying and I could not evade it. And this is why I put the Guardian Ape on my number 3, because it actually is the third most difficult boss for me. It's the third one that I stayed the most at as a boss. I raged a lot. Thankfully no controllers were broken or nothing of the sort. Everything was still intact from my setup, but it was a challenging boss. Next up comes the second most difficult boss in Sekiro, and that has to be Genichiro. If I'm being fully honest, I had a mini debate with myself if I should give Genichiro that number 1 spot or not. I obviously didn't, and you'll see why, because I think we all know what comes in that first spot. The main reason why I put Genichiro on the second spot on our list here is because as a boss fight, this asks for a lot from the player. For those who didn't really understand what I just said, I think that Genichiro is the first boss fight who will make the player use every mechanic. Okay, almost every mechanic that Sekiro has to offer. You will have to dodge, you will have to parry, you will have to Mikiri counter if you want your life to be way easier with this boss. You are gonna have to dodge lightning, you'll have to dodge long-ranged arrows as well. I think Genichiro is the fundamental boss, don't ask me to spell that, for Sekiro. I think he's like kind of like the pillar of like what's to come, you know what I mean? Because after you beat Genichiro, you're way more comfortable with the game. At least that was the case for me. I got to him fairly fast. I was still very new to the game, like I was bad, you know? Not to say that Genichiro took us here on the channel a very long time to beat, way longer than the Guardian Ape. If Guardian Ape took us about 2-3 days. I think we stayed at Genichiro for like nearly a week. Let me know in the comments down below how much you stayed at Genichiro, and slide it in the comments. What do you think is the most difficult boss in the game, from your experience or from what you've heard if you haven't played Sekiro yourself? While you're there, if you enjoyed the video so far, make sure to hit that like button, it helps a lot. And if you're new here to the channel and want to keep in touch with us and the community, make sure to press that subscribe button as well. We're also live on Twitch, so if you want to go check us out, links in the description down below. Okay, enough talk for me, let's get back to it. And as I was saying, Genichiro took us a hot minute to beat, but we did it in the end. And oddly enough, I can't even say what I had the most trouble with. It would probably be the first phase though. Because the second phase is literally just like the first phase, right? You think you beat the 2 phases and that's it, GG's, you beat Genichiro. Well, of course, that's not it, right? After you beat the 2 phases, third phase pops out of nowhere, Genichiro becomes skinny Thor, and you know, it's another battle from there. But as I was saying, surprisingly, I did not have big trouble beating the last and final phase at all. I think the second time I reached the lightning phase, I beat the boss fully, which was very, very surprising for me. The most amount of trouble, as I said, I had with the first phase, because that was the one that I had to, like, you know, just die and learn his moveset, you know? Overall, Genichiro is probably the main boss of Sekiro, and if you can't beat Genichiro, don't expect to beat other bosses either, right? But speaking of other bosses, I think we talked enough about Genichiro, and now it's time to look at the most difficult boss that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice has to offer. Does this really come as a surprise though? I really don't think so. Before I explain the how, why, and everything that needs to be explained, I wanted to mention that in this video we're only going over the main bosses that you have to fight. Obviously, I could have included the Demon of Hatred and other bosses, but I am sticking to the main story and the bosses you absolutely have to beat in order to progress with the game, right? And in this case, Isshin the Sword Saint is arguably the most difficult boss in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and it's not even close. Let's be honest here, guys, Ishin is an insane boss. There's a reason why he's the most difficult boss in the game, and one of the most challenging boss fights from the entire Souls game series, right? To start things off, Ishin has 3 phases. Actually, it has 4 phases, because you first have to beat Genichiro in his final form. After, you have to beat Ishin, that has another 3 phases. And if, for example, you die from Ishin in the 3rd phase, you have to start all over and beat Genichiro again and beat Ishin's 3 phases. So it's a long battle. Number 2, and probably the most important part, the biggest reason why Ishin is so difficult, his timing is incredibly hard to nail down, right? He attacks with incredible speed and intensity, and it's very difficult to defend against his unpredictable blows, let alone even land some on him. And I would personally say that the phase that I had the most trouble with from Ishin was surely the second one. First phase is pretty tough, but once you get used to it, once you get the Mikiri counters down, the timing down, it gets a little bit easier. It's not easy, but it's easier. Second phase, on the other hand, he pulls out his spear and it's wraps for you. Third phase is exactly like the second phase, only he uses lightning, but if you know how to deflect lightning, third phase is way easier than second and first phase, because once you deflect lightning, you can shock him and deals a massive amount of damage and you get some hits in, so it's way easier. And also, I don't know about you guys, but for me at that point, before getting to Ishin, fighting Genichiro in his last form was a piece of cake. He was so easy, I just phased through him, it was like practice. But overall, this is the main reason why I put Genichiro in the number 1 spot for the most challenging boss in Sekiro. And I'm pretty sure he's the most difficult boss for a lot of you guys out there. As I said, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are, what your personal list is. And thank you for reaching the end of today's video. I hope this video was entertaining or maybe informative to somebody out there. And with that being said, drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new and want to keep in touch. Join our streams, links in the description down below. Have a great rest of your day. See you in the next time. Peace out.